Hey everybody, thanks for jumping on and listening in. I'm sorry you have to listen to me again, talk about some new requirements. I'm finding out I don't like talking in front of people somewhat, but I really don't like recording myself. So bear with me as we kind of go through this. Hopefully we could get the material out there. What we want to talk about today is electronic visit verification. This is something that the Medicaid program nationally they put in place based off some legislation back in 2016, the Cures Act, where they're trying to confirm visits are being performed. They're trying to get more data on the time, the place, time in and out, the patient that it was performed on, and who was performing the services, and then verify that information through a new system. We originally thought we were going to use WellSky. They've been trying to implement a platform to meet these requirements over the past 6 months. We saw a demo of that about 2 weeks ago and decided it was not going to work for us or for you. It was going to make things quite a bit harder. If we went through WellSky, we were going to have to do this time in, time out of each visit, then get the patient's signature. But we couldn't just implement it for the Medicaid programs, which is SynCal and Medi-Cal locally. We would have to implement it for all of our patients. So rather than that little house that you have to get a patient's signature and it pulls the time in and out, it would have a time in and a time out. And if you missed that time out or one of those punches, you couldn't access the next visit. You couldn't clock it in the next one, as well as you couldn't get into that next visit note. The other thing that was going to complicate things is you can't even, there's some of you that pre-chart, you can't even get into that visit note if we use WellSky's platform to document anything. You would have to be at the patient's home, use the GPS, clock in, then that's what would give you access to actually go into that note and start completing something on there. We just thought that would throw way too many things off and we decided to not go through WellSky. Instead, we're using Sandata. That is the company that's within California. That's actually the main company that has to gather all this data and compare it to our claims and make sure everything matches. So we're going to be using their app. You've gotten a couple K-mails already. Kevin and Robert have been pushing out the new app to the iPads. It's called Sandata. And if you're having any issues, you don't see that app, please reach out to the IT desk. I think in the last K-mail we said if you don't have that app by next Wednesday, please reach out to the IT desk and make sure that we do get that on your iPad. We're also looking into, can we get it on the phone? If you have a work phone or if you have a private phone and you want to download the app yourself, I think it is a little bit more user-friendly doing it on the phone because you don't have to go back and forth between different pages. But I'm going to kind of show you the workflow on the iPad today. Hopefully it's pretty straightforward. We're not using, there's more things we could do through the app. We're trying to keep it as simple as we can though for you. So let's go ahead and jump in there and kind of see what the workflow would be. Okay, so the first question we need to ask ourselves is, which patients do we need to perform this electronic visit verification on? Just a reminder, we're doing it for SynCal and Medi-Cal patients. One way, just as a review for most of you, to see what insurance the patient has is if you click on that patient's name, it will pull up this box and it'll show you insurance. This one says non-admit, but for SynCal patients, it will say SynCal. For Medi-Cal patients, there's different kinds, but it'll always say Medi-Cal right there underneath insurance. So that's one way to see, but the best way and the information we're going to give you is in your hotbox. You're used to seeing that little house, and that purple sticky house is where we were signing in before and still continue to do on all the rest of the patients. But for SynCal and Medi-Cal patients, we're going to add this purple sticky note here. And it says EVV mobile app Sandata required, client ID 169124. That client ID is going to be specific for that patient that Sandata assigns for the patient. We're going to need that when we log into the mobile app to search for the patient. So remember 169124. Apologize for my lack of videography skills here. I'm a PT. So now that we have that client ID number, we're going to go into that Sandata app. Here you will see that company ID is going to be the same for all of us. That's what links it to CCHH. Your username is going to be your work email. Password, if you remember, you would have got a K-mail giving you some instructions on how to set up the Sandata originally. They would have given you an Outlook email with a temporary password that you need to reset your password. We do encourage you to write that down. It is quite a long password that they require. So if you can, when you reset your password, make sure you write that down, have it accessible, probably along with that company ID to enter in if you need it. So let's go ahead and log in. This is the page that'll open up when you log into the new app. To find your patient, what you're going to do is go up to these three little lines in the upper left-hand corner. See right there? You're going to select clients, and we're going to search client. That's where we're going to enter our number, 169124. We're going to go ahead and search client. And there's my patient, Jane Doe. Has the client ID, the Medicaid number that's associated with the patient, and the patient's address. So now I want to start my visit with this patient. I could do this from the patient's driveway or in the patient's home, however you want to do it. Hopefully you remember, I would probably do it in the patient's driveway, get things started. That way I won't forget. Then it's going to ask you service selection. So it's asking who you are, what are you doing, what services are you providing. You will always select the same answer. We'll get a list out in a K-mail with what you should answer. It's always going to be MCP, and then it's going to be discipline specific. So right here we have RN, OT, PT. There will be ST, MSW options as well, and we'll get those to you. So once you know it, you're always going to select the same thing for your discipline. I'm a PT, so I'm going to select that. When I do, we get a little check mark over here, and I'm going to start my visit. I'm performing this visit in the home. I'm going to check home and then continue. It's asking me, are you sure you want to start the visit? Yep, I do. So now I've clocked in. I've started my visit. Maybe I did that in the patient's driveway in my car while I'm getting ready for the visit. And then I walk up to the patient's home and we get the visit started. Say the patient's not home. Maybe we had a scheduled visit, but they're not home now. You can abandon that visit right there, and that will discard the clock in that you did. But most of the time, our visit goes through. We're doing our visit. We're going through our at least 30-minute visit that we're in the patient's home, and then we want to complete the visit at the end. This will log you out after about 5 minutes. So I'm just showing you how it will work. You will be logged out. You'll have to go back in at the end of the visit. Click on that app. Let's log back in. It will show you this visit is in progress. And say you've done your visit, you're all done. We're just gonna hit resume visit. And I want to complete the visit. I completed it in the home, continue, and now it's just giving me a summary. I clocked in there, clocked out there, I was in the home. On this patient, this was the service provided, I'm confirming it. Those are all the pieces that Sandata is asking for to meet the new requirements for Medicaid. So that's the typical patient. Hopefully most of the time, that's the workflow. Purple sticky is going to have the client ID. Bring it to the app. Search for your patient. Search client right there. Clock in. Confirm what discipline you are. Confirm you want to start the visit. Go through your visit. Log back in. And then resume the visit. Complete the visit. And you're all done. There are going to be instances specifically on the weekend probably where we're not going to have that client ID entered in that purple sticky. If you know it's a Medi-Cal or SynCal patient and there's no client ID number in that purple sticky, Or say you don't have cell service and you can't use this app because you don't have any service. What we're asking when that occurs, they do have this feature for start unknown visit, which we can do. It's just a little bit more complicated. We're trying to keep it as simple as we can. If you don't have that client ID, you don't have service, all we're asking you to do is come into that patient's chart, and you're going to send a K-mail to this new electronic visit verify. Okay, that's a new K-mail group we created. You're going to send a K-mail to that group. Electronic visit verify visit for 12-21. Period. Visit performed from 11:30 to 12:30. Period. Mike. That's all we're asking you to do at that point, is send a K-mail to that group. Then what we'll do is from the office, we're going to enter that time in and out, who you are, who the visit was performed on the back end. We want to use that as an exception. Most of the time, we do want you to try and use GPS in the patient's home, clocking in and clocking out. That's what really the Medicaid program is looking for. If we do this too much on the back end of entering our time in and out, it's going to raise some flags and probably produce an audit for someone coming out. So thanks for listening in. Thanks for helping us comply with these new requirements for the Medicaid program for our Medi-Cal and Syn-Cal patients. If you have any questions, please reach out to me, or that electronic visit verify K-mail group is a good place to send some questions. Thanks for your time.